So if you've taken on the responsibility of being a trustee, you're going to have to seriously consider the duties, the powers and the responsibilities that you've been given, so that you can run the trust effectively and look after the interests of the people that you've taken responsibility for. So let's think about some of the main issues that you're going to come across as trustees. So the first is the trust deed itself. So you've got a duty to understand the trust deed. You need to read it carefully, make sure you understand all the legal terms and how they apply to the responsibility you've taken on. So you need to follow the terms of the trust deed, and you need to work in conjunction with the other people who've taken on the responsibility of being a trustee, and to act unanimously where you can, unless the trust deed says otherwise. So in general terms, you should agree with the decisions that you make rather than working on majority where you don't need to. So as part of that, you need to keep scrupulous records of how you come to decisions, the tax records, all the sort of running of the trust on a day-to-day basis, because of course you're going to be responsible for significant amounts of money within the trust itself. So it pays to cover yourself as trustee, but also to look after the interests of the people that you're going to manage the assets for. So there are some important pieces of legislation, the most important of which is the Trustee Act 2000. So what this aims to do is to give a wide variety of powers and responsibilities for trustees where the trust deed might not have set these up. So it's a kind of a default. It imposes some things that you can't avoid, but also provides for a mechanism where the trust deed hasn't considered some of these issues. So the trustee can go beyond some of the provisions within the Act of Parliament, but without that, it has a sort of broad framework that you need to think about. So most importantly, really, you can't delegate certain functions of your powers and responsibilities. So you can't delegate the decision of how to distribute the money, who to pay fees to, and you can't delegate the decision of who to appoint as trustee. So there are certain important decisions that you can put out to a professional advisor, but those ones you cannot avoid as your own responsibility. So another thing to think about is the wishes of the settlor, so the person who set up the trust in the first place. Now, they may have set these out in the trust deed, but they may also have set up separate documents such as a letter of wishes, and that simply will be telling you as trustees how to distribute the money in what circumstances. So this may of course be important if the person is still alive, so you may want to ask them to check their wishes haven't changed as their life develops. So so it's an important thing to think about, not just the documents of the trust, but also the people who are still around who set them up. So now, most important of all, I suppose, is the duty of care you have towards the beneficiaries of the trust. So these are the people who are set up to benefit from the assets of the trust, and basically you're working for those beneficiaries. So most importantly is you need to look after their interests and make sure that they're treated equally and fairly along the way. So let's think about trustee investment powers for a minute then. So if you've got significant amounts of money within a trust, you could be looking after this for quite a long period of time. It could be years or even decades that you're responsible as a trustee. So there are various powers of trustees to invest money, and some of them might include the power to delegate those day-to-day functions. Of course, we operate as professional advisors to trusts and trustees, so you can delegate the function of managing investments to a professional advisor such as ourselves. And there are other things to think about. So you need to think about whether you have the capability and the time to be able to deal with some of these issues that you're responsible for on an annual basis. So there's a duty to diversify the investments that you invest into. Choosing one investment is rarely suitable for the lifetime of a trust. You need to ensure that your investments are suitable for the purposes that the trust was set up for, and of course to look after the interests of the beneficiaries. You need to regularly review your investments because of course they may change and fluctuate in value, and you need to comply with your tax obligations. So there's some quite onerous responsibilities and duties there. You may have wide powers to make your own decisions within the trust deed itself, but I think it pays to at least take some thought around them before you get started and consider whether you might need some advice to help manage the trust investments in particular.